Welcome everyone to If the podcast. Today, our guest is Yessica Rodriguez. She is a nutritional therapist who specializes in gut and digestive health, and she's based in London in the UK. Welcome, Yessica, to If the podcast.
Hi guys, thank you for the invitation. I'm very honored to be here. A little bit nervous, but yeah. Thanks for the invitation. Thank you so much.
Welcome, Yessi. It's our pleasure. So to start our conversation today, we're going to talk about, we're going to open our conversation with a statement, which is, according to the National Library of Medicine, a published UK study showed that approximately 13% of a general population sample reported symptoms attributed to gluten.
Yeah, well, I mean, gluten sensitivity, to be honest, I think those numbers, in my opinion, are quite low. Actually, globally, the latest data is showing that it's only like 5% of the population has gluten sensitivity, which means that a person, whenever they eat gluten, the gluten actually is in wheat, barley, and rye. So whenever they eat these type of products or foods, they get reactions, such as they get these different symptoms, such as, for example, bloating. They also get flatulence, or they can get diarrhea, or on the contrary, constipation. Also, joint pains are really common also, or migraines or headaches right after a couple of hours after eating this type of food. So this is, to be honest, guys, really, really common because, you know, gluten products or gluten containing foods are everywhere. And I think that's one of the problems when people are constantly eating day and night gluten products. You know, for breakfast, people start having, a toast or a croissant or a piece of bread, which contains gluten. And then 2 hours later, people are snacking with cookies, biscuits, or whatever, also containing gluten. And then for lunch, like a sandwich, and for dinner, pasta. So imagine this constant bombarding your digestive system and your immune system with gluten. Obviously, your body is going to start reacting to these foods. So to be honest, it's really, really common. As you say, I specialize in digestive problems. So most of my clients, they come with me with this type of symptoms. So at the beginning, you really need to understand. And I think it's very useful in clinic practice to really analyze someone's diet to really see how much gluten they're eating, because gluten is one of the factors that influence or cause these digestive issues, you know, but it can be other products as well, other types of food that are also creating problems in the digestive symptoms. So it's really, really common, guys, and I see it constantly in my clinic, especially in the UK. You know, the type of food people eat here, it's very gluten influenced. So that's one of the things. So the first thing that you advise to someone when they're having this type of symptoms is to try a gluten-free diet for like 3-4 weeks for them to really see if their symptoms improve.
Yep. So what's like a typical gluten-free diet? Because I guess that gluten in general is necessary for in maybe in a milder dose is necessary, right? But as you were telling, like we have it on at breakfast, at lunch, and then at dinner. Like what would a balance gluten, including gluten, before we go to gluten-free diet, what would be a balanced one in your experience?
Very good point, Guni, because actually, when people start having these symptoms, and you're touching very good point, females especially, we are more sensitive to gluten or to other foods. It might be related also with our hormonal systems as well. And we start with, especially around our menstrual cycle, we get bloating, you know, or like retention of liquids, or we feel a little bit bloated. So it's kind of difficult. That's why it's very difficult for people to really understand what can be causing my symptoms. So that's exactly, Tasha. It's very, you feel, you just ate and you don't know what caused your migraine or your joint pains. So it's hard for people to really understand. And especially, you know, also one thing that I noticed with people, that some people think that having digestive symptoms after eating is really normal. People think like, having bloat or having gases, flatulence, you know, or diarrhea, for example, is quite normal. It's a normal reaction.
Well, I have to be honest, because like earlier this year when we spoke to a Chinese medicine practitioner, she was explaining this, and I then realized, like, oh my God, what I've been experiencing in life is not normal.
It's
I thought it
normal.
was normal. I thought like, it's a natural course of life. You eat and then you have to go to the toilet, and that's just,
Exactly. Or
but
you eat and you feel very sleepy, very
yeah,
sluggish. It's normal that after eating I have to take a nap. No, it's not normal. It's common. It's very common, but something being common, it doesn't mean that it's normal. So we
yeah,
really need to understand the difference. It's not normal to have these symptoms, or it's not normal to be, for example, like my father. He's telling me, yeah, I'm 70 something. It's normal for me to have like very bad memory. Well, it's normal because all your life you have been eating pretty bad. So obviously you're gonna develop all of these symptoms, but it's not normal. Yeah.
That's a good point. And I like that link that you made as well. And people think because you've been having this experience for so long, it's like, this is part of life. So there's nothing to question. There's nothing it's not like stopping me from living life. So it's not something that I should be looking into, right?
Exactly.
And that's
But
the problem.
maybe let's define normal, because some people might say, well, it's like for centuries, people have been eating those, right? Have been eating gluten, etc. And so they would say, well, what do you mean by normal? And we said common. Okay, so we made the distinction between common and normal.
Yeah.
But let's go deep into normal, because a state, I mean, we will develop gases, we will develop sluggishness at some point. But to what extent is normal okay?
Exactly. Well, the food we eat, the main purpose for food is to give us energy, to give us nutrients, to continue our life. That's what normality is. Unfortunately, and you're touching a very good point, Guni, at the moment, why people are having more problems with gluten? Because the gluten containing foods we eating at the moment are completely different than the gluten people were eating 100 years ago. The gluten you and me, we eating is not the same gluten as my grandmother, your grandmother were eating. It's completely different. One of the factors is because it's been genetically modified.
Yeah.
So the gluten structure is bigger. That's why people are having more problems. Another thing, most of the gluten is being severely exposed to fertilizers. For example, glyphosate. It's and actually some of the research is showing that also it's not only the gluten, but all of these fertilizers are the ones that are giving problems to people when we're eating gluten, because it's poison. Imagine in our digestive system we have our beautiful microflora, our microbiome, our good bacteria that are there to protect us, and what these foods severely sprays are doing, they're killing all of this microbiome. That's why we are developing a lot of symptoms. So answering your question, Guni, what a gluten-free diet is, a healthy gluten-free diet, because nowadays it's very, gluten-free products are everywhere, because this is a huge market. So people thinking, okay, my solution is gonna be going for a gluten-free diet, and they're going to the supermarket and buying all of the processed products, which on the label it says gluten-free, and that's fine, and I'm gonna be fine, and all my problems are gonna go away.
Right.
The problem with those products are that they're processed products. So yes, guys, answering your question, Guni, what is a gluten-free diet, a natural gluten-free diet? It's to eat whatever the nature gives us, which are the seasonal produce. Fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, legumes. That's what we should be eating, the natural seasonal foods. And then eventually, we can include, for example, a fermented bread. But also that's another problem why now people have problems digesting the bread nowadays full of gluten, because now the industrialization is using yeast instead of the long fermentation that they were using in the past to create those beautiful loaf of bread. So everything now is, very fast. So that's why people start having problems. So don't think because a product or a food it's labeled as a gluten-free, it means that it's healthy. Actually, it's the contrary, I would say. It's a huge market and companies are using this to sell more products. So just read carefully the labels on the back and go for natural foods.
Well, I feel that at the end, for carbs, I'm thinking, because I've been thinking, how do I reduce my gluten intake, etc. And so it looks like, okay, if I don't pick those gluten-free products, and when they say, for example, like pasta, etc., then I'm just bound to have carbs that are potatoes or just rice.
Okay.
Is that it for carbs?
No, come on. Every I mean, every vegetables and every fruit, even nuts and seeds, have some percentage of carbs. Root vegetables, the carrots, the parsnips, the cruciferous vegetables, we are the broccoli, the cabbage family vegetables. Those are also really good for females because they have some compounds that help us to detox this excess of estrogen, but that's another topic for a different podcast. But all of those vegetables are really good carbs because actually pasta, bread, they're not really that good because they increase your insulin and then that creates also inflammation in the body. So I would recommend someone just go for what nature gives us, like natural produce. Yes.
So if I'm just playing the devil's advocate here because
Yeah.
I know there's a lot of because I'm like 100% in. I understand
Yeah.
this. I just have a lot of pushback from the people around me who are, carb lovers, the typical carbs. When I mean carbs, right? Especially for the Asian kind of background, they would say rice. So rice is fine. It looks like it doesn't have too much gluten. But like for example, because I'm from Switzerland, so when I go back to Switzerland, just loads of bread, pasta, and so they're like, how do you eat in a restaurant? Because it's either based on rice, pasta, or bread. One of those three. The base is always there. And if you go for non-carb, like traditional carb base, it's a salad and you're looked down upon if you pick that one. Or sometimes the option is not even existing in that menu card. So what would you say, or what would be your recommendation of like what would be the right approach when you go to the restaurant or when you go out? And because one of the issues is like, oh, you seem complicated because, oh, is this gluten free? Is this, that, and this? What is your advice on that?
Exactly. I mean, when you go out or you're invited to a party, we're social humans beings. So you don't have to be that strict. However, if you are being diagnosed as celiac, you really have to avoid gluten. Otherwise, you're gonna compromise your immune system severely. But if you notice that after you eating gluten, you get these symptoms that I just mentioned, just try to avoid it as much as you can at home. That's what I tell my clients. Do the best you can at home because at home you are in control. But when you go outside, you're invited to a party. Exactly. I mean, if you want to try a piece of cake, try some cake. I mean, if you go to a restaurant and the menu is really limited, okay, try to choose the healthiest dish on the menu, but also try to enjoy, because it's not good also to have all of this stress, because stress also increase your option of developing more digestive symptoms. It's very related, the nervous system with the digestive system. So try to be relaxed, enjoy your day out, and you're going out to the restaurant, enjoy the meal, but at home where you have more control, try to have a cleaner diet, right? And also depends on your symptoms. If you are really, really ill and you have to go through a healing journey, obviously, maybe you need to be more strict, but it's also that it depends on every single individual.
I think you touched a really interesting point there, Yessi, where you said to not bring that stress with you when you're eating. And I wonder, like, have you had any patients who were really making the effort with eating holistically and whole foods and reducing their, I guess, gluten intake, but still experiencing inflammation and kind of the symptoms that gluten bring about?
Yes, Tasha, this is very common because it's not only gluten that causing problems. Or it could be, for example, it could be also dairy products. A lot of people eat a lot of cheese or milk, and also the industrialization of these industries. They're not really producing the best dairy products, full of toxins, with hormones, with antibiotics that they give to the animals. So they're really not producing the best quality produce. Obviously, people are gonna develop or experience different symptoms. That's why it's not that easy to eliminate gluten and your life is gonna be easy. You really need to really, like I told you at the beginning, me as a professional, I really need to analyze what people's diet is, what they're eating the most, because this could be the clues of why people are experiencing different symptoms. So there is another one.
Yeah. And you were saying as well earlier, like how there's inflammation, right? So for me as well, I'm constantly bloated, I feel, even when I don't eat gluten. And so I always feel like what am I not doing to like stop this from happening, right? I'm curious to know, like, because there's all this conversation about like gut health. Do you, better your gut health, improve your microbiome in your body, and so then I don't really understand the link between gluten and your gut health. Is there a link?
Of course, I mean, because for example, gluten, dairy, fructose, or all of these different processed ingredients that the industry include into the foods are like toxins to your body. So your body start reacting to those toxins because your body recognizes them as an invader, an intruder into the system. So the body start developing an immune reaction to attack and to defend you from those offenders. So obviously that's why it's not only digestive symptoms that people experience. That's why some people have, like I told you, joint pains or migraines, or some people also have skin issues, because that's when the immune system is involved, and that's why it becomes like a systematic problem. So obviously that's why it's really important for you to stop eating these products to really calm down the immune system, also your nervous system, because everything is connected. That's what I love about natural medicine, that we really understand that everything is connected. It's one body everything is connected.
Seeing it as a healing moment, right? And everyone has a different period of time where they can, I guess, heal. Because one of the questions was like, yes, you go into this gluten-free diet, but for how long? If you say, okay, it's a week, 2 weeks, then that's fine. Like emotionally speaking or like mentally speaking, it's like, okay, I can deal with 2 weeks.
Yes.
But with someone who has a severe, situation with gluten sensitivity or intolerance, what is like a typical period where you would have to adopt a strict gluten-free diet?
I mean, it depends, how bad the person is and what stage of the pathology the person is. So, like you said, emotionally it's easier for you to think, okay, I'm gonna go gluten-free for 4 weeks. It's very easy, it's doable, because if you tell someone, yeah, you're gonna do this for a year, this is like a extreme measure, and that's going to give more stress to the person. So you need to do baby steps, because here we're not talking a diet. We're not talking about following a diet. We are really changing the lifestyle of a person. So we really need to understand that the modern lifestyle we have been dragged to is not really the healthiest. Yes, so I think, it depends on every person, but the easiest thing to do for for all the people who are listening to us, try it for a month. Go gluten-free for a month and then see how you start feeling. And also, it's a really good advice to also have like a food diary where you know what you eat and how you feel. So you start making the connections, because it might not be only the gluten. Especially if you've been experiencing digestive symptoms for a really long time, for years, most likely it's like your gut lining, it could be a little bit damaged. I'm going to explain you the 5R approach.
You read my mind. I was going to say, what is that? What is the 5R?
It's a naturopathic point of view of helping someone to improve their digestive system. So it's called the 5R approach. So the first R is remove. Okay. Remove from your diet the foods that you think it might be causing the problems, which in this case we've been talking about gluten, could be also dairy. Also, I advise my clients to remove all processed foods, because like I told you before, they're full of toxins, of ingredients that we don't know what they do, colorants. So all of those are really damaging your gut lining.
Would you consider like bread and like croissants and pastries, for example, like processed foods?
Yes, because like I told you, they're not using the techniques that they used to do.
Right.
They're not fermenting those breads or the flours as they used to be. Now they eat yeast, instant yeast. So obviously we're not gonna digest that bread as we're supposed to, because it hasn't been pre-digested. Because when somebody ferments naturally, all these proteins also start degrading, and they become easier for our digestive system to digest. So obviously if somebody, I mean, they're using, you know, this yeast and they make a bread in 10 minutes, obviously it's not going to be really easy for your digestive system to digest it, which is at the same time, I understand it's very hard for people who are really busy, our female listeners who are, you know, going after a career, and then you have to cook everything from scratch. I understand it's really hard. I mean, it's really hard. It was hard for me at the beginning when I was really ill, but you need to go baby steps, you know.
I think that shows like, okay, so she's trying to assess how difficult this move is going to be to go full gluten free. But so you were saying from the 5R approach, so that was remove, and then what's the first one?
But in the remove phase is really important because you need to remove not only the foods, but also the habits, the bad habits that are also affecting us, affecting our emotions, affecting our nervous system. So it's not only what we eat, it's also what we do in our day-to-day that it's also affecting our health. So if you have really bad habits, I mean, if every weekend you go to a pub and you get really drunk, obviously that's gonna have consequences in your not only in your digestive health, but in your general health. So it's about removing everything that's making you feel sick with yourself. So it's not only food, but also life habits, you know. But here is about teaching the person, holding your hand and telling you it's possible. Don't be afraid. Let's go baby steps and let's move on to the next R, which is replace. So in this phase, we're gonna replace all the processed foods for natural foods, which is lovely because, I mean, we just need to really be more selective of what we buy and what we eat. You know? So we need to replace, for example, like we were saying, the pasta for maybe organic carrots, or cauliflower, or quinoa, or brown rice. They're always healthier alternatives. So we just need to replace the processed foods for healthier alternatives. So that's the second R. The third one is reinoculate. Is reintroduction. We need in this third phase, we need to introduce whatever is missing. I'm talking about nutrients, can be also foods that some people are used to eat, which have healing properties, for example. Also, you need to start introducing maybe digestive enzymes. If somebody's lacking on a good HCl, hydrochloric acid, that helps us to digest the food, we need to introduce into the diet so people start digesting food better, absorbing all the nutrients better, and also what are the habits that we need to include here in maybe yoga, meditation, like a gratitude journal, you know, all these things that we somehow forgotten because we are extremely busy and we really give it the importance that it has. So we really need to start introducing all of those ancient practice that you guys your cultures are experts on this. So we really need to learn from those ancient cultures what they were doing. They were doing everything so good. So we really need to start including this into our day-to-day. And then repair, we're going now into the repair phase. We're going to introduce all of these foods that are proven that are going to help us repair the gut lining.
Sorry, actually, before you go into repair, I just wanted to ask you in the re-inoculate stage, right? You say getting the right nutrients. So for someone who is, for example, I guess trying to do this themselves, of course, it's best to do it with a practitioner, but they're trying to understand their body better and get more nutrients. And so they're doing the exclusion of things that they make them feel sick and, replacing with better foods. How do they identify, which foods they are missing from their diet? Like, how do they understand that?
Yeah, I mean, one of the very easy advice is to follow whatever is seasonal. Follow what is in season, eat whatever is in season, because nature is very savvy and it's already giving us what we need. And we try to eat whatever we're craving instead of whatever nature giving us. So go and look for whatever is in season because those products are higher in nutrients, higher in vitamins, minerals. So start with that. Start experimenting with different foods, different ingredients. Also, fermented foods as well are really important that we start including them because actually when we have lots of digestive problems, our microbiome, our flora, it's very depleted. and so it's important that we start drinking or eating fermented foods. They're also very available now and good options in organic shops. So we really need to start including whatever we've been lacking for a long time. So it depends on how processed your diet has been for all of these years.
And so next is repair.
Next, repair, exactly. Like I told you, give nutrients to your body. What nutrients your body has been lacking. I'm talking here about maybe perhaps vitamins or supplements, but in this case, I really advise someone to work with a practitioner, because it's not good just to go to a shop and randomly choose, because you never know, I mean, the dosages and if it's gonna have interaction. And mostly important, it's to really understand if that's what your body is it's needing in that moment. You really need to take whatever your body needs at that particular moment to give your body whatever it needs to heal, instead of becoming something that it can be toxic, right? So yeah, repairs. Give for example, here it's very important that people start taking, for example, bone broths, soups, healing soups, ginger, turmeric, because those ingredients are really repairing the gut lining, the decrease the inflammation, internal inflammation. And the last one, the 5R, is retain. Retain all the work that you have done, retain it. Okay, like I told you, this is a life journey. It's not 3 weeks diet and then I go back to my bad habits, because what's the point? We're not, I mean, this diet culture, it hasn't worked. So many years, it has actually created more problems, emotional problems, and all that. So really retain. You have done lots of work, so retain everything you've done, so your body really start the journey process. Yes, exactly.
That's helpful. I like that you have this 5R approach that it breaks it down. It's clear, it's straightforward. People can digest this, pun intended. Yeah. And so then like they can actually take this home and like say, okay, this is how I can start. If I can't get a naturopathic doctor or like a nutritionist near me, then I'll start this way. How can I remove it and follow the flow of it, right?
But still, I think that experimenting on your own is okay to a certain point, but it's always good to, I think, double check with someone that is an expert, because it could go south, right? If you think you're doing the right things, but then you're potentially neglecting another side of your diet. So I think that
that's
always try to get like some sort of like consultation or some advice, proper advice.
It's difficult, because nowadays talking about diets, the keto diet now is really popular, or I mean paleo diet is really popular. All of this, we are bombarded with so many different information, so we obviously get lost. That's how I felt when I was really ill. That's why actually I became nutritional therapist, because I was sick for so many years and I couldn't find a solution in the conventional medicine. So for me, no, I need to really find, and because I was trying to do things on my own. Oh yeah, let me experiment with this or with that, but you really don't go to the root cause of what might be causing the real problem. So you really need to work with someone, a professional, to really advise you. It's not gonna be forever. It depends on how you feel. It might take a couple of months, 6 months. It depends on your personal situation, but I think this 5R approach is really easy for people to follow as well. Yes.
And kind of to close off your point with regards to going to see a practitioner or someone who is a specialist, and why maybe people have this they refrain to go to someone who's going to talk about how to eat, or who's going to teach them of how, because it's something that we overlook so much, but it's such an important aspect of our lives, right? And so just speaking, like investing in that is investing in your health on a longer term, right? So thank you so much, Yessi, for bringing us this 5R approach and bringing some light on gluten.
Thank you,
on gluten intolerance and sensitivity.
Yeah, definitely. And I guess to close off from our conversation, we do rapid fire questions. And so maybe we can start with what is the worst health advice that you've ever received?
Yeah, I mean, and it goes very well into this conversation because when I was severely ill, I remember one gastroenterologist told me, eat whatever you want, it doesn't matter. So for me, it was really devastating because every time I ate or every time I had a glass of water, I was feeling bad. So obviously that advice was the worst.
Yeah.
And that's what I knew, no, this is not true. I need to look for natural solutions because this is really the worst advice ever. Exactly.
Right.
Very, very on point on our conversation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The second question is, if there was one habit we should all adopt, what would it be?
I mean, it's gonna sound very obvious, but drink water. Drink enough water. You have no idea how many people I see in clinic which don't drink enough water. So you need to keep yourself hydrated. 1 liter, 1.5 liters, 2 liters. It's very important. And also another one, because only one is it's very limited. Include ginger and turmeric into your life. They've been amazingly for me, for my clients. They have amazing healing properties, and especially for digestive health, they're really, really important. They decrease inflammation. So start drink water with slices of ginger, and that's gonna make a huge difference in your life. Yeah,
That's a good tip. I'm gonna try that. In Malaysia, we drink like tea with ginger a lot. So I think that's a new thing to try. And the last one. So if you were to put a song or soundtrack to your life, what would it be?
Oh wow! I mean, "Love's Theme" by Barry White. I don't know if this beautiful.
I love
melody.
Barry White.
I love it. But this one reminds me of my father. It takes me back to my childhood. My father used to listen this song all the time. So yeah, it takes me to a very happy place. So that'd be it. Yeah.
That's sweet.
That's really cute.
Well, thank you so much, Yessi, for joining us today. It's been a pleasure, and I hope you come back on our show.
Guys, and I want to thank you for everything you're doing for promoting complementary medicine. Round of applause to you guys because you're doing something really amazing. I'm really, really thankful for what you guys doing, and let's continue promoting the natural medicine because I think that's what people need.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It means a lot.